You've heard this one. Put a single marshmallow in front of a 4-year-old. Tell them, if you can wait 15 minutes without eating it, you'll get 2. And whether that child can hold out, so the story goes, quietly predicts whether they'll succeed for the rest of their life. 1 marshmallow, a whole life. It's one of the most famous experiments in the history of psychology. It began at Stanford between 1968 and 1974 with a psychologist named Mischel. Mischel wasn't trying to predict anyone's future. His real question was simpler: how do children resist temptation at all? What tricks help them wait? And he found real useful answers. The kids who lasted didn't have iron willpower. They distracted themselves, they looked away, they sang, they imagined the marshmallow was just a picture, a cloud, anything but food. That was the discovery. Distraction beats willpower, a genuinely good result. But that is not the version that made it famous. Because years later, Mischel's team tracked down some of the original children, now teenagers, and reported something startling. The kids who had waited longer as preschoolers were now scoring higher on the SAT, by a famous figure of around 210 points. It sounded like destiny written at age 4, but sit with that number for a second, because that headline result rested on the test scores of just 94 children. 94. From a small, specific group of kids. But the finding was too irresistible to stay in a journal. It exploded outward into best-selling books, talk shows, parenting magazines, corporate seminars. The marshmallow became shorthand for a whole theory of success, that life comes down to self-control. Parents started running the test on their own kids at the kitchen table, watching a toddler reach for candy as if they were reading a fortune. There was just one problem with the story. It was far weaker than anyone was told. Because in 2018, a team of researchers decided to do the obvious thing: run the marshmallow test again, properly, at scale. Instead of a small, homogeneous sample of children from Stanford's own faculty families, they drew on a national study of more than 900 children, a far more representative slice of America. They measured the children's ability to wait at age 4 or 5, then followed them to age 15 to see how they turned out. The link between waiting and later achievement was still there. But it was about half the size of the original, already a much smaller effect than the legend implied. And then they did something the famous story never did. They accounted for the family the child came from, their wealth, their home environment, what the child already knew. And once they did, in the group where it mattered most, the marshmallow's predictive power shrank by about 2/3, down to something statistically indistinguishable from 0. Read that carefully. The wait time wasn't really measuring some magic inner willpower. It was, to a large degree, measuring the kind of home the child grew up in. Now, this is the part everyone gets wrong. This does not mean the experiment was faked or that it was all a lie. The 2018 study found the same direction. Kids who waited did tend to do slightly better. The effect was real. It was just dramatically smaller, and mostly a shadow of something else. So if it isn't pure willpower, what is the marshmallow test really catching? One smaller experiment offers a compelling clue, and a very different way to see the whole thing. Before offering the marshmallow, researchers in Rochester ran a small but striking study. They gave children one experience first, a grown-up who made a promise. For some kids, the adult kept it. For others, the adult broke it. Then came the marshmallow. The children who had just met a reliable adult waited about 4 times longer than the children who had just been let down. Think about what that means. If you are a child and the world keeps breaking its promises, eating the marshmallow now isn't a failure of character. It's the smart move. The second one might never come. A child who grabs the treat immediately may not be losing at willpower. They may simply have learned correctly that a promise made by the powerful is not always kept. And this is why the myth did real damage. Because for 50 years, the simple version told a comforting story that the secret to success is self-control, and if poor children just learned to wait, they could wait their way out of poverty. It quietly turned a child's rational response to an unreliable world into a personal flaw. It blamed the kid for the kitchen. The real lesson of the marshmallow test was never teach children to resist, it's build them a world worth waiting for. The scientists who overturned the legend were careful about this. As one team put it, we should resist the urge to confuse progress for failure. The original work wasn't fraud. Science did exactly what it's supposed to do. It checked itself, and it found a deeper truth. So the next time someone tells you a 4-year-old's whole future hangs on a single piece of candy, remember what the test was really measuring, not how strong the child is, but how much the child has learned to trust us. It was never about the marshmallow.